This PowerPoint is about narrative hooks, which is talking about the way you begin your memoir. Why are hooks important? Well, hooks are important because they draw the reader in and make them want to continue reading. Let's look at an example of a beginning of a memoir. It was a day at the end of June. My mom, dad, brother, and I were at our camp on Rangeley Lake. We arrived the night before at 10 o'clock, so it was dark when we got there and unpacked. We went straight to bed. The next morning, when I was eating breakfast, my dad started yelling for me to come down at the dock at the top of his lungs. He said there was a car in the lake. While the last sentence of this paragraph does draw the reader in, the beginning of it is kind of slow to start. And that's because there's a lot of plot without much action or detail. So let's look at a few interesting ways to start a narrative. One way is to start with action, showing yourself doing something. Another way is to start with dialogue, having someone or a couple people speaking. And a third way is reaction, which is showing your own thinking. So let's look at the same memoir start, only with action. So I gulped my milk, pushed away from the table, and bolted out of the kitchen, slamming the broken screen door behind me. I ran down to our dock as fast as my legs could carry me. My feet pounded on the old wood, hurrying me towards my dad's voice. "Scott!" he bellowed again. "Coming, Dad!" I gasped. I couldn't see him yet, just the sails of the boats that had already been put out into the lake for the day. Notice how this hook doesn't even mention the car in the lake, but it still draws the reader in. We want to know, why is he running? And why is his father calling for him? So let's look at the same beginning, but with dialogue this time. "Scott, get down here on the double!" Dad bellowed. His voice sounded far away. "Dad!" I hollered. "Where are you?" I squinted through the screen door, but couldn't see him. "I'm down on the dock. Move it! You're not going to believe this," he replied. This hook also doesn't mention the car in the lake, but it still sparks the reader's interest. We want to continue reading to find out why his father is yelling at him to go to some unknown location, and we want to know what he's not going to believe. And here's the same beginning with reaction this time. I couldn't imagine why my father was hollering for me at 7 in the morning. I thought fast about what I might have done to get him so riled. Had he found out about the way I talked to Mom the night before when we got to camp and she asked me to help unpack the car? Did he discover the fishing reel I broke last week before I could consider a third possibility? Dad's voice shattered my thoughts. "Scott, move it! You're not going to believe this!" With this hook, the reader's interest is again captured. This time, it is because we are immediately with the author, wondering why his father would be yelling for him so early in the morning. The important thing to remember is that the beginning of the story should draw the reader in and make them want to continue reading. In this PowerPoint, we looked at 3 possible ways to do that, but they're not the only ways to begin a story. Now, I want you to think about ways you can start your narrative, and then list 3 ideas.